Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Ryan, and today we're going over tips and tricks on how to take care of your bike and make sure it's running good all season long. Today's a pretty simple one. We're changing a tube. And now, a lot of people don't think that there's a lot into changing a tube, and you're right. It's a very simple process. It takes maybe 10 minutes, and it'll get you back up and on the trail in no time at all. We're gonna go over the tools we have today. Obviously, we have our bike with our tires and the tubes on the inside, but there's a few other tools that we need. Primarily, we need our tire levers. Now, I have two different types here, one by Pedros and the other one by Park Tool. Both are great, any kind works, but the important part is being able to use these to get the tire off of the rim of the bike and then to be able to extract the tube for the change. And along with that, we also need for a tube change, a tube. Now, before you go out and purchase your tube, make sure you check the sizing on the tube and also on the wheel. The size of the tube will be stated on the sidewall of the tire, so make sure that it matches up with this description here before purchasing. That will make the heartache a little bit easier and so that you know you have the right size to begin with. Lastly, it's always good to have some place to sit, especially when changing out a tube. Personally, I like to use my little adjustable height stool here. Makes it really easy for going up and down if I need to be a little bit lower to the ground or up higher. Pick your favorite seating and use that one. If you're out on the trail, use a friend. Whatever you gotta do, find a seat, it'll make it a whole lot easier. I have my tire here, and inside is the tube that we're gonna change out. Now, most important step, make sure that your wheel is off of your bike. If you're unsure how to do that, check out the link below to see a video that will walk you through and coach you through the steps for that. All right, carrying on, the second most important step is making sure that the tube inside the tire is completely deflated beforehand. That'll make everything a lot easier. This valve here is we have a Presta valve. We're gonna unscrew the cap to expose the valve tip right here. So with these Presta valves, we need to unscrew again. It's almost like a second little cap, it's like an air stop. And then with that, we can just press down in and it'll start to release that air. So if we wanna jump forward a little bit, I'll get this all deflated and we can meet back up after that. Welcome back. The tube's been deflated now. I still have the cap. Make sure to put this somewhere safe so you can remember where it needs to go. I'm setting this just down by my right foot. We have this deflated. I find the tire and tube is easiest to work with when I hold it with my knees, leaving my hands free to do what I need to do. So back at our stem, we have a small lock ring here that keeps the tube and the valve stem in place. We're gonna unscrew that all the way. Take this all the way off. You don't need to know where this one is. Your new tube will come with one of these. We've got everything released up here. Now we need to release the tire from the rim to make it easier to open. So I'm gonna take both my hands, put my fingers right down near the rim, and just give it a good squeeze and pull back. And that'll open it up nice and easy. You wanna do that a few locations around the tire to make sure that you have an easy access for your tire lever, what we talked about earlier. I'm gonna use my yellow Pedros one. I prefer these ones. And so you'll grab it with your non-dominant hand. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna squeeze it and we're gonna peel back a little bit. And we're gonna take our lever and push it down inside to grab the lip of the tire. See how I got that right there? That's what we're looking for. We need to grab the lip of the tire. And so what this tire lever is going to do is help us pull the rest of the tire out. So I'll take this, my hand, I'll be in a pushing motion, not a pulling, and I will push along the outside of the tire. And if it'll help, you can fold and push it down as you're going along, just to help loosen it up. And I'll be honest with you, some tires are much easier than others. But as you're going, eventually you'll start to get a little bit of traction and it'll really open that up. Now, at this point, you no longer need your tire lever, but I would recommend using it just for the first few times while you're practicing. So we're gonna keep moving it along just like that, all the way around until we get back to that first point of entry, right near our valve stem. I like to use the valve stem as a reference just so I always know where I am on the tire at all times. Now that we've got that tire peeled back, we have full access to the inside of the tire and the tube that we're needing to replace. And there's no lock ring on the valve stem, it's free. I'm able to just reach inside and pull it straight out. And it'll slide right out just like that. And I'll pull out just a little bit right there. Oh, it's trying to hide. Pull out just a little bit right there, and it's starting to come out the rest of the tire. So like I said, like earlier, we're just gonna follow it around. If you like to peel fruit, this is your time to shine. And there we have it. There's our tube all the way out. And obviously if we had a hole in this one, it would be much more deflated, much more flat. But for these purposes, we're still gonna be putting in a new tube anyway. So we'll set this one off to the side. If you want to keep it, you could probably throw it away, not in this scenario, because it's still nice and new. But we'll get our box. We're gonna pop it open. Tough box. And we're gonna pull out our new tube. Go ahead and unroll it. Open it up, separate it, like one of those garbage bags. And we see here, we have our stem, we have our cap, and we have the lock ring. Now, both the lock ring and the cap have to come off before the tube can go on. So make sure to do that. It's okay, I've forgotten plenty of times before. It's all right if you mess up and forget that, that's okay. We'll just back up a few steps and we can start over. Like earlier, put that lock ring and cap in a safe place. You know where they are, you won't forget them. Now the way the tube sits, it's gonna sit with the valve towards the center of the wheel here. So remember earlier how we peeled it back, got that full access? We're gonna peel it back again because the valve stem can only sit in one spot. And there's a nice hole right there, just where that valve stem is gonna go in. So make sure to find that, put it on the top, closest to you, and then you take your stem. Like earlier, we take our other hand, we take our stem just like this. I like to use 2 fingers and my thumb and hold it in place. We'll put it down and then we'll just slide it right in, just like that. We're gonna take our lock ring that came with it and we're gonna put it over. We're gonna give it a few turns to make sure it stays on. This is to keep our valve in place while we're installing the rest of the tube. It's a little bunched up here at the top, so remember what we're doing. We're pulling the edge up to allow access, and then we're just gonna feed our tube in. One of the big things to be aware of as you're going around is making sure the tube doesn't twist on the inside. If the tube twists on the inside and you go to inflate it, it will pop. It makes a very loud noise and it is very scary. I've popped a few, and it's okay if you do too. But we're just gonna take it nice and easy. We're gonna feed it up in all the way around. No problem. Some tubes you might have to stretch just a little bit to get them to fit in, but that's totally okay. All right, and we'll double check. We have the tube all the way in. There's no twisting. So now we start the reinstallation of the tire into the wheel. So instead of pulling this time, we're gonna push with both of our hands. We're gonna squeeze and push. And the idea is to get this rim or this protruding edge back into the wheel, because that's what holds the tire in place when you inflate the tube. So we're just gonna follow that around. I would recommend using your hands instead of a tire lever for the reinstallation, as you can pop or put a hole in the tube with a tire lever. So I recommend using your hands, going nice and slow. And right near the end, it's gonna get a little bit tougher just because we're trying to force that tire back into its little spot. And it's okay if you need to grab a friend to do so. There are some tires that won't roll back on without a little bit of help from a tire lever, and that's okay. We just need to be careful that we're not pinching the tube with that lever. So this one's pretty tight here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my tire lever. the same one from earlier. And I'm going to very carefully put that hooked edge up around the edge of the wheel. And I'm going to pull up and force it in. When you're doing this, make sure to hold your opposite edge so it doesn't start to fold out of the tire as it's going along. And we're just going to whittle that out and repeat the process. Very carefully grab the edge. Then we're going to lift up, pop it straight in. Like I said, repeat the process again. Pop it straight in. And this last little section here is going to be the toughest, but with just a little bit of help, you'll pop straight in. From here, we check to see if we got all the edges in, and it looks like we did. Good job, us. We'll tighten that valve stem lock ring all the way up. And then it's time to inflate the tire. And for these Presto valves, you take your pump, and the same thing as letting air out to let air in. You go ahead and loosen this ring at the top, put your pump on, and go for it. You pump up to the recommended pressure on the tire, and you'll be all set. And so for changing a tube, that's all there is to it. Thanks for joining us again today. I really hope that you've been able to learn something useful and that you can not only learn it yourself, but also teach your friends. You know, biking is such a community sport, and it's that community that really brings us all together. So again, thank you for watching. I hope that you'll like and subscribe so you can see more videos like this, learn a few more tips and tricks, get out there on the trail and have a great time. Thanks, guys.